He shouldn't have been chosen to go. And now he could not remember why he had fought so passionately to be chosen. The memory had gone away, overwhelmed perhaps by the poignant, aching, fragmented images of the life he had lived in the interstices of his desire to go to Mars. So minuscule and so precious. The evenings in the plazas, the summer days on the beaches, the nights in women's beds, the olive trees of Avignon, the green flame cypress. He found he had left the alchemist's quarter. He was at the foot of the great salt pyramid. He stepped slowly up the 400 stairs, putting his feet carefully on the blue no-slip pads. Each step gave him a wider view of Underhill Plain. But it was still the same sere and barren rock pile, no matter how large it got. From the square white pavilion at the pyramid's summit, one could just see Chernobyl and the spaceport. Other than that, nothing. Why had he come to this place? Why had he worked so hard to get here, sacrificing so many of the pleasures of life, family, home, leisure, play? He shook his head. So far as he could recall, it had simply been what he had wanted to do. The definition of his life. A compulsion. A life without a goal. A compulsion. A life with a goal. How could you tell the difference? Moonlit nights in the fragrant olive grove, the ground dotted with small black circles, and the electric warm brush of the mistral rustling the leaves in quick soft waves. Flat on his back, arms spread wide, the leaves flickering silver and gray under the black bowl of stars. And one of those stars would be steady, faint, red. And he would seek it out and watch it. And there among the windswept olive leaves, he had been 8 years old. My God, what were they? Nothing explained that. Nothing explained them. As well explain why they had painted in Lascaux, why they had built stone cathedrals into the sky, why coral polyps built reefs. Oh shit, I started way too behind. We read this last week, and I did a better job, but I didn't know where to pick up again. He had an ordinary youth, moved often, lost what friends he made, went to the University of Paris to study psychology, did his degree work on space station depression, and went to work for Ariane and then Globkosmos. Along the way, he got married and divorced. Francois had said he was not there. All those nights with her in Avignon, all those days in the Villa Franck-sur-Mer, living in the most beautiful place on earth. And he had walked about in a fog for Mars. He had walked about in a fog of desire for Mars. It was absurd. Worse, it was stupid. a failure of the imagination, of memory, of finally intelligence itself. He had not been able to see what he had had, or to imagine what he would get. And now he was paying for it. Trapped on an ice floe in the Arctic night, with 99 foreigners, not one of whom spoke French worth a damn. Only 3 could even try, and Frank's French was worse than no French at all. Like listening to someone attack the language with a hatchet. The absence of his mind's own tongue had driven him to watching TV from home, which only exacerbated his pain. Still, he taped video monologues and sent them to his mother and sister, so that they would send replies in kind. He watched the replies many times, looking more at the backdrops than his relatives. He even had occasional live conversations with journalists, waiting impatiently between exchanges. Those talks made it clear how famous he was in France, a household name. And he was careful to answer everything conventionally, playing the Michel Duval persona, running the Michel program. Sometimes he canceled consultations with fellow colonists when he was in the mood to listen to French. Let them eat English. But these incidents got him a sharp reprimand from Frank, and a conference with Maya. Was he overworked? Of course not. Only 99 people to keep sane, and while at the same time wandering in a province of the mind, on tree-covered steep hillsides, with their vineyards and farmhouses and ruined towers and monasteries, in a living landscape, a landscape infinitely more beautiful and humane than the stony waste of this reality. He was in the TV lounge. While lost in thought, he had apparently gone back inside. But he could not remember that. He had thought he was still standing on top of the Great Pyramid. Oh my God. He's reminding me a bit of Billy Pilgrim. Except with his No, I mean, it just replaced aliens with, like, psychological theories, and he's all there. He's unstuck in time. I don't know. I'm just bullshitting. All right, let's continue. He thought he was still standing on top of the Great Salt Pyramid. And then he had blinked and he was in the TV lounge. All asylums have them. Referring to the compound as an asylum. Because it has a TV lounge. Watching a video image of one of the lichen-covered canyon walls of Marineris. He shivered. It had happened again. He had lost touch, gone away, and come to later in the day. It had happened already some dozen times before. And it was not just being lost in thought. but buried in it, dead to the world. He looked around the room, shivered convulsively. It was LS5 now, the beginning of northern spring. It was LS equals 5 now, the beginning of northern spring, and the northern walls of the Great Canyons were basking in the sun. Aw, it was spring right now, guys. It's just like Earth. It was the beginning of northern spring, and the northern walls of the Great Canyons were basking in the sun, since they're all going to go crazy anyway. Then it was LS equals 157. And 152 degrees had passed in a blur of tele-existence. He was basking in the sun in the courtyard of Francois' seaside villa in Villefranche-sur-Mer, looking down the tile rooftops and terracotta pillars and a small pool, turquoise above the cobalt of the Mediterranean. A cypress stood like a green flame over the pool, swaying in a breeze and casting its perfume over his face. In the distance, the green headland of a peninsula. Except, really, he was in Underhill Prime, usually called the Trench, or Nadia's Arcade. Sitting on the upper balcony, looking out at a dwarf sequoia. Behind it, the glass wall and the mirrors, with their gradient refractive index that guided the light down to the concourse from its origin on the Côte d'Or. Tatiana Dorova had been killed by a crane tipped by a robot, and Nadia was inconsolable. But grief runs off us, Michel thought as he sat with her, like rain off a duck. In time, Nadia would be well. Meanwhile, there was nothing to be done. Did they think he was a sorcerer? A priest? If that were true, he would have healed himself. Healed all this world. Or better, flown through space home. Wouldn't that cause a sensation? To appear on the beach at Antibes and say, "Bonjour, I am Michel. I have come home." Then it was LS equals 190, and he was a lizard on the top of the Pont du Gard, on the narrow rectangular rock plates. On the narrow rectangular rock plates that covered the actual aqueduct itself, which ran in its straight line high over the gorge. His diamond-back skin had sloughed off around his tail, and the hot sun burned the new skin in crisscross lines. Except he was in Underhill, in fact, in the atrium. And Frank had gone off to live with the Japanese. And Frank had, oh my god. Except he was in Underhill, in fact, in the atrium. And Frank had gone off to live with the Japanese that had landed in Argier. And Maya and John were at loggerheads about their rooms. And Maya and John were at loggerheads about their rooms and where to house the Unoma local headquarters. And Maya, more beautiful than ever, stalked him through the atrium, imploring his aid. He and Marina Tokarevna, or Mia, he and me, oh my god. He and Marina Tokareva, he and Marina had stopped rooming together nearly a full Martian year before. She had said he was not there. And looking at Maya, Michel found himself imagining her as a lover. But of course this was crazy. She was a Rusalka. Rusalka. She had slept with the Glov-Cosmos bosses and cosmonauts to make her way up through the system. And it made her dissociated and bitter and unpredictable. She used sex to hurt now. Sex was just diplomacy by other means to her. It would be insane to have anything to do with her in that mode, to be drawn into the vortex of her limbs and her limbic system. Why not send crazy people in the first place? I don't write them down, but I'll look them up. All right, I'll be right back. I gotta pee. Thank you for listening.